Okay, so now we're going to have a look at how do we identify the gradient of a straight line by looking at its equation. Okay, first things first, always start by writing the equation of your straight line in the form of y equals to mx plus c, where m will be your gradient. Moving forward. So since we've written them in the form of y equals to mx plus c, remember the coefficient, the number that is attached to x by a times, is your gradient. That includes its sign as well. Okay, so for this first example where we have y, we're looking at this. So when y equals to minus 3x plus 2, again, we're looking for that thing that is attached to x with a times, and this would be it, including its sign. So it's a negative one, which would be, our m here would be minus 3. Okay, now let's move on to this example. Again, we're looking for m. It's the one that is attached to x with a times, even though we can't see it, right? This would be it. We don't see a sign. When we don't see a sign, it means it's actually a plus. All right, so our m here will be plus 4, otherwise known as 4. And moving to our final example for this slide here, if our equation is y equals to minus a half x plus 5, we said the coefficient, one that's attached to x by a times, is our gradient. For this case, it would be m equals to minus a half. Now, this specific equation can also appear in a slightly different way. So let me just rewrite this. It could appear like this: y equals to minus x over, actually your minus would be here, over 2 plus 5. Now, when you don't see anything here, let me just see if I can, give me one second. Right. Okay, so when you don't see a number over here, remember x is, it's 1x, right? So even though it's invisible, it will actually be, you can write it yourself if you want, it's actually 1 times x. So it's 1 half, right? So when you don't see it, just keep that in mind. It's actually still a half, right? Okay, moving on to our next slide. If, however, your equation is not already presented in the form of y equals to mx plus c, then you will have to rearrange it first, like we saw in a previous video. If you haven't watched it already, please go back and watch that video. All right, so just to have a very quick reminder here, let's say we have this equation here, so it's written in a very different form than the one we're looking for, which is y equals to mx plus c. Okay, that means we have to rearrange it, and the question is, find the gradient of the equation 4x minus 2y plus 5 equals to 0. This won't do right now. Okay, so we're going to have to rearrange it. Remember, we're looking to make y the subject. There's our y here. We want it to be 1y, as you can see here, even though you can't see it, it's 1 times y, and we want it to be a plus y. So since right now it's on the left-hand side of the equation and it's negative, I want to kick it, I want to take it to the other side and make it a positive. So by taking minus 2y to the other side, it will become a positive 2y, and then you can just keep everything else on the left-hand side. So it's going to be 4x plus 5 without changing their signs. Okay, then if you want at this point, you can switch both sides. So when you flip both sides at the same time, so everything as it is, you don't actually have to change the signs. We only change the signs when one thing is moving at a time where the other things are not moving. So for this case, what you could do is you could just rewrite it as 2y equals to 4x plus 5. Okay, but we're looking for 1y. It's a positive y, so that's great, but we want 1y. So that means you're going to have to divide it by 2. But remember, because it's an equation, if you divide one side by 2, you're going to have to divide the other side by 2 to keep things equal. Then we have 2 divided by 2. That makes 1, so we have 1y, that y is known as y, equals to 4x plus 5 over 2. Now, what does that mean? It means when we say over 2, it means that they both have the same denominator, which is 2, which means it can be rewritten like this. 4x over 2 plus 5 over 2. I'm just going to take you very quickly here on this side. So that means that we have y equals to 4 over 2. So 4 divided by 2, that would make 2. So 2x plus 5 over 2. And we've reached a stage where our equation is of the form of y equals to mx plus c, right? Which one is the m? Now you can tell. It's the one that is attached by a times, but invisible times 2x. So here, m equals to 2. And there you have it. That's your answer for this one. This was just a quick reminder of how to rearrange your equation to the form that we want. Okay, so now it's time to work together. Okay, you already have a background. So because I think you understood things enough from the previous video and because of our lesson ahead, for those of you who have actually gone through this lesson with me in class, for anyone else, if you feel confident to try this out on your own now, you can feel free to pause this video, solve it, and then click start again and click the pause so you can see the answer. Okay, so our equation here is y equals to minus 2x plus 5. Our general form that we can tell whether or not, which tells us which one the gradient is, has to be of the form y equals to mx plus c. It already is in that form because we have one positive y, so that's great. And our m is the coefficient that is attached to x with the times. So there you have it, m equals to minus 2. Yep, all good. Let's move on. Okay, here we have y equals to minus x plus 7. Again, if you feel confident, feel free to pause this video and solve it on your own, okay? All right, now, if you notice here, we have, you can't see a number clearly, but just let me remind you that when you see a minus x or x, it actually means 1x, okay? So here we have minus 1x. So even though you don't see it, it's actually an invisible minus 1x plus 7. So since that is the case, our coefficient, our m is the one that is attached to x. Sorry, our x disappeared for a second. So that means m equals to minus 1. And there you have it. Our gradient is minus 1 for this one. Oops, there's something missing here. This was supposed to be like this. Okay. So this is a different kind of equation. It's still of the form of y equals to mx plus c. What is different in this case is that there isn't a c. Okay, our c here is 0. Our y-intercept is 0. But that doesn't change anything. What we care about is the gradient. Let me just write this again. Y equals to minus 2/3 x. Our gradient is always, okay, don't get scared just because it looks a little bit different. It's the one that is attached by times. How many times must I say this? Right? If it gets boring, just bear with me, okay, if I say things. Repetition is key sometimes to learning. So, having said that, our m for this one is minus 2/3. Okay, so what I try and do with these videos, I try and give you different examples of different scenarios that might happen, because, you know, sometimes with a slight difference we do panic, and I don't want you to panic. I want you to just go back to what you know, okay? But I just want to give you a heads up whenever possible. Okay, now we have minus x plus 2y minus 4 equals to 0. What is our problem here? Our problem with this is that it's actually not in the form of, which one is it? Y equals to mx plus c. So first things first, if we want to identify the gradient of a straight line by looking at this equation, it has to come in this form. So we're going to rearrange things now so that it does appear in that form. So let's do that. Okay, all right. We focus on our y. Our y, first of all, it's a positive y. It also happens to be 2y, but it's still positive, and that's the first thing that we care about. Since it's positive, it's on the positive side, we're just going to keep it there. So 2y. And then what we want to do is we want to take everything else, we want to kick it out because we want our y to be on its own, and the rest will go on the other side. When they go on the other side, however, their sign will change. So minus x will become a plus x, otherwise known as just x, if that's the first thing you're writing, and minus 4 will become a positive 4, so it will become plus 4. Okay, so now we have 2y equals to x plus 4. But remember, not only are we looking for a positive y, we're looking for 1y, which means I have to divide, in order to get 1y, to divide it by 2 makes 1. But because it's an equation, if I divide one side by 2, I have to divide the other side by 2 as well, to keep things equal. So 2 divided by 2 is 1, so great, they cancel out each other. Y equals to x plus 4 over 2. They have the same denominator, which means y equals to x over 2 plus 4 over 2. All right. At this point, you can actually stop, but it's best to just simplify things as much as you can. So here, you could say y equals to x over 2 plus 2, because 4 divided by 2 is 2. All right. So if you've reached the point where your equation is of the form y equals to mx plus c. Now, what is our m? Okay, we mentioned a similar example. You don't see, on the numerator, you don't see a number, which means that is 1. It's 1x. So I'm just going to make this invisible little line here. It's actually 1 over 2. So our m here is 1 over 2, which means it's a half. Okay? Okay. Let's move on to our diagnostic quiz time. Okay, if you feel confident, go ahead and let's just go with the quiz. If you've made more than a few mistakes with the examples that we've seen so far, go back, read through it, try and understand it, take your time, then write things on a clean piece of paper and attempt it again. When you're done with that, go back and not only check your answer, but check what you wrote specifically, so your process to get there, and how precise were you and how detailed were you. Okay, all right, so quiz time. This is the time you pause it, right, and then you solve it on your own, and then you check your answer. In the meantime, I'm just going to go ahead and solve it. Okay, so our answer here is 1/3. If you have a question for any reason, please reach out, yeah? Okay, next one. Pause the video. Okay, I'm just going to make a note here. Remember, our usual form is y equals to mx plus c, which means I would rearrange things. You wouldn't necessarily have to, but just to make things a bit more precise, it will actually be like this, 3x plus 4, just so you don't get confused. Sorry. Remember, your gradient is the one that is attached to x by a times, and there you have it. Okay, so m equals to 3. Any questions? Reach out. Oops. Pause the video, attempt it on your own, and then look at the answer. Okay, hope you got that right. Remember, in order to be able to identify the gradient by looking at its equation, you have to first rearrange it into the form of y equals to mx plus c. Okay, moving on to the next one. There isn't a next one actually, that's the end. If you had trouble with the ones that were not already in the form of y equals to mx plus c, please go back and watch the videos that have to do with rearranging equations into the form of y equals to mx plus c. The other thing, even if you do watch those and have some difficulty, just a reminder that these have to do with chapters that were done before the one that deals with straight lines. So you have to actually have a good understanding of equations first before you get to feel confident with rearranging things. So if you do feel that you need more help on equations and rearranging to solve for a specific subject, please let me know and I will make that video as soon as possible. Until then, take care.